Guys, I want to talk today very briefly about a connection between the thyroid and the gut. This is something that I see in my patients all the time, and I get asked questions often about the thyroid. And basically, it's like, could my symptoms be my thyroid? Because we often think when we have symptoms like fatigue, weight gain, hormone imbalances, anxiety, infertility, that it's always the thyroid, right? And sometimes it is, but often the reason we have thyroid issues is because there's actually an underlying gut issue. So there's a huge connection between the gut, your gut health, and your thyroid health, and it's actually backed by quite a bit of research. Research actually shows that gut issues are about 10 times more likely than thyroid issues. So, you know how we always want to, like I said, blame everything kind of on the thyroid. I feel like it gets a bad rap sometimes. Gut issues are actually way more common than thyroid issues. So, we also kind of, I think, underappreciate what the thyroid does for us. It does play a key role in things like conception, your hormone balance, your fertility, sleep patterns, your mental health, our energy levels, and also how we digest and assimilate and also absorb our food and nutrients. So we have to have a good functioning, not only gut, but also thyroid in order to assimilate our food and absorb our nutrients. So gut dysbiosis is something that we commonly see in people with thyroid disease. It's very common in people with Hashimoto's, which is actually one of the most common causes of hypothyroidism. It's also common with Graves' disease, which is sort of the opposite. The microbiota in the gut does things like increase the absorption of minerals that are important for the thyroid to actually work. So things like iodine, selenium, zinc, iron, and all of those, again, are essential for the thyroid to function clearly, properly, and also for the thyroid to convert T4 into T3, which is the active form. So having, this dysbiosis in the gut, which just means an imbalance of good and bad bacteria, can really negatively impact the thyroid, which again, then kind of controls everything, right? So it's important, if you do have symptoms that you think may be thyroid issues, or maybe you've had your thyroid tested and you have some thyroid issues, it's important to go back and look at the gut. Remember, we're always wanting to get to the root cause, because otherwise we're just putting Band-Aids on issues and kind of covering up symptoms. We're not actually treating, correcting, and healing the underlying problem. Now, thyroid disorders are also not only very common with gut, dysbiosis, but also they are very common with leaky gut. So when we have dysbiosis in the gut, this imbalance of good and bad bacteria, it's very common to have leaky gut. And I've talked about leaky gut before. You may have heard me talk about the fact that that's also called increased intestinal permeability, meaning that there are certain things that should stay in our gut, certain bacteria, toxins, food particles that should not leak out into our bloodstream. Well, when we have a leaky gut and we have junctions in the gut lining that are not tight as they should be, from this dysbiosis is one common cause, then all of those things that I mentioned, the food particles, the toxins, the bacteria, leak out into the bloodstream. And what does that do? Well, our body sees that as a foreign object. So really kind of as a protective mechanism, our body turns on inflammation, and then it also starts to kind of attack itself, which is basically what happens with autoimmune disorders. And thyroid disorders are autoimmune disorders. So you can see how leaky gut very commonly could lead to a thyroid disorder, or another autoimmune disorder. So that's kind of the long and short of how they are connected. I will be going into much greater detail on this, and also some things that you can do to treat and correct thyroid disorders in an upcoming masterclass that I'm doing. So stay tuned for more information on that. But just kind of a brief overview of some things that you may want to look at if you do have thyroid disorders. You want to look at your diet and really customize your nutrition, because we have to make sure we're getting all of those nutrient dense foods, if we already, especially if we already have thyroid disorders, that you may be lacking, that your thyroid needs to function properly. Also, gluten is a huge problem. There's a big connection between autoimmune disorders, gluten, and leaky gut. So really cutting that out. Also cutting back on any processed foods. There are certain supplements that I'll be diving into in that masterclass that are really supportive to the thyroid. So definitely tune in for that. But that's kind of the long and short of how the thyroid and the gut are interrelated. And if you do have symptoms that you think may be a thyroid disorder, make sure that you look at your gut and you don't skip that step. I just recently had a client who I worked with actually about 6 to 8 months ago. And she just messaged me and had gone back and had some blood work. She had Hashimoto's, and she has healed her Hashimoto's, which is amazing, right? Just from healing her gut and doing some supportive natural, it was all by natural means. So I'll be sharing more about that as well. All right, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Please always reach out with any questions. I love to get questions. I love to answer your questions. So I'm always here to help. Have a good day.